enough, let's talk about Baker Mayfield, whose Browns are 5-3, but he's been inconsistent. Threw a career-high 5 touchdown passes 2 games ago, but followed that up with 0 last week. Baker's eligible for an extension after the season, but when GM Andrew Berry was asked if Cleveland's franchise quarterback, if he is it, he said, quote, "I really don't get caught up in that type of narrative. Baker has played well." Oh, my God. So, Acho, what does Baker need to do this season to prove he's a franchise quarterback? What was that?
I don't get caught up in that type of narrative.
We don't believe you.
Baker Mayfield has to not only go to a playoff game, he has to win a playoff game. It's simple. It's cut and dry. It's black and white. It's not areas of gray. He has to not only go to a playoff game, but he has to win a playoff game. If you're a Cleveland Browns fan, if you're an NFL analyst, if you're a football fan, if you're a Browns exec, you know this. Your team is good enough to make the playoffs. Your team is probably good enough to win a game, if not a game or two. The question then becomes, what's going to inhibit you from doing that? The only answer would likely be Baker Mayfield. So for Baker to just get the Browns to the playoffs is not enough. And it's not enough because the Browns are a playoff team. So don't do what you should do and then expect me to pat you on the back for doing it. I've said this before. I'm not going to applaud a fish for swimming. I'm not going to applaud Baker Mayfield for taking a playoff team to the playoffs. I will, however, applaud Baker Mayfield for winning a playoff game. Browns, I don't think, have been to the playoffs since 2002. Haven't had a winning season since 2006 or 2007. So if Baker Mayfield, if you can go exceedingly and abundantly, I'm going to stand up and give you a standing ovation. But I won't do is applaud you for doing what you should do. How can Baker prove he's a franchise QB? It's simple. Make sure that you enjoy team success.
I'm a little more into this one than you are, it seems like. Because you said just go to the playoffs and win one.
I don't need you to do a ton.
He has to win the Super Bowl and be the reason they won the Super Bowl. And I'm just going to use precedent against him. I'm going to use history against Baker Mayfield. This is not even a hot take. This is just how the league is looking at Baker Mayfield and these type of quarterbacks. #1 overall pick? Okay, let me tell you how this goes.
Talk to me.
One, you can't be the poster child and definition of inconsistency. And that's what he is right now. Let's just be real about Baker Mayfield. Hasn't had back-to-back 250-yard passing games in 22 games. So when you see something hot, guarantee it for Baker Mayfield, the last 22 games, you're going to see the next game being cold. 3 of his last 4 games, his passer rating was 55, 62, and 73. Now, you sprinkle in the one good game to keep him afloat, but then you realize he's still the definition of inconsistency. Why do I say he has to go to the Super Bowl and win it and be the reason? Because right now, we're looking at a Jimmy Garoppolo in his first year as a starter, took his team to the Super Bowl, didn't win it, and now finds himself, it seems like, on the chopping block. You can say it's because of injuries. You can say it's because of inconsistency. The point is, a guy took his team to the Super Bowl, and that's not good enough. Now, let's say a step behind, a step lower. Let's just go to the playoffs and win a game. Like you said.
Of course.
Well, Dak Prescott did that, and he's still underappreciated. He only got his full appreciation when he finally got injured and saw what they look like without him. But winning a playoff game for Dak Prescott has done him nothing in terms of being thought of completely as a franchise quarterback. Or you could end up not even going to the playoffs, and then we know where that's going to land you. You're not going to get the nod in terms of a franchise quarterback. So when I look at Baker Mayfield, I just come to a realization that, man, they out here slicing guys up even if they take you to the Super Bowl. So how the hell Baker Mayfield going to save himself by just winning the playoff game?
Let me tell you why I vehemently disagree with that. I vehemently disagree with that because of expectations. And we've talked about this yesterday. I forget who was on the show, but with the Dallas Cowboys.
Akeem Talib.
He forgot my name, so I forgot him. With the Dallas Cowboys, obviously, they always have Super Bowl expectations. The San Francisco 49ers, they have a Super Bowl experienced head coach in Kyle Shanahan, who went to the Super Bowl as OC for the Falcons, and they have Super Bowl type of talent.
They had no Super Bowl expectations.
Let me now get to the Browns. Let me get to the Browns. Baker Mayfield, he hasn't been great.
You think?
You know who else wasn't great?
Who?
Blake Bortles. You know who else wasn't great? Joe Flacco.
Nah, well, he did win a Super Bowl.
Exactly.
That's why, exactly.
Great. So
win a Super Bowl.
We walked right down that lap. Let's go to the full screen.
And MVP.
Let's go to the full screen of Joe Flacco and Blake Bortles.
Are we doing
Joe
this?
Flacco, 59% completion percentage, Marcellus, that year he won the Super Bowl. 238 passing yards, 22-10 pass touchdowns to interception ratio. That year he won the Super Bowl. 87 quarterback rating. That year he won the Super Bowl. His team was 10-6 the year he won the Super Bowl. Joe Flacco signed a $100 million deal after putting up these numbers to become the highest paid quarterback in the league at the time. To the right, you'll see Blake Bortles. You can read, so I won't read it out for you. Blake Bortles signed a 3-year, $54 million extension after these numbers he put up. Why? Because Blake Bortles went to the AFC Championship game and Joe Flacco, his team, won the Super Bowl. Those two numbers on the right would get you benched in 2020. Those two numbers on the right sell 59% completion percentage, 22 passing touchdowns to 10 picks, 87 passer rating on the league average right now is 94. That would get you benched. It got Joe Flacco $100 million. Why do I say that? Because if you look to the left, Baker Mayfield, he'd outdo Joe Flacco right now, completion percentage, passer rating outdoing him. Team wins, if you project it out, he'd outdo him. But Baker Mayfield, what does he need? We can get rid of the full screen. All he needs is team success. You brought up Dak Prescott. Let me end this lap with Dak Prescott. Why hasn't Dak signed the deal? It's not because Dak individually isn't good. He was on pace to throw for 6,000 yards. On pace to throw for 36 touchdowns, 12 interceptions, something of the like. It's not because Dak individually isn't good. It's because the Cowboys collectively aren't good. So Jerry Jones is looking at Dak, and it's hard for him to decipher, are you conducive to team success or just individual success? It is always quarterbacks a reflection of their team. Teams will pay quarterbacks based on how the team is doing. Joe Flacco got $100 million for numbers that would get him benched. Blake Bortles got $54 million for numbers that would get him benched. Baker Mayfield would get franchise perception. Not for individual numbers, but for collective success.
I thought I graduated from Columbia already. Golly, took me back to school with all that. That was pretty good. Not exactly complete, because if you look at it, Dak is a franchise quarterback. We all can agree now.
Not Jerry.
Well, Jerry agreed, too. He offered him $35 million. I think he thinks he's a franchise quarterback. Dak just thinks he's a little bit more than that number as a franchise quarterback. I'm not going to let you get by saying that the San Francisco 49ers had championship expectations.
This year.
This year?
Of course.
Okay, but what were they last year? In the Super Bowl. What were they the year before that? Jimmy G was hurt. What were they the year before that? 2-14. He's the reason why we think of the 49ers like we do now.
The 49ers have Super Bowl expectations this year, bro.
Yeah, because of Jimmy G taking them to the Super Bowl. The point of this is Dak, Jimmy G, whatever you want to say, we basically pointed out that Baker Mayfield, you got to do a lot this year to get that 5th-year extension option and also to get a contract extension. I don't think he's going to do it. I don't think that this team is going to look at him in that same respect. This is why. When you talk about a Dallas Cowboys team, you thought that all the surrounding pieces were there, and Dak was the reason holding it back. Now you come to a different realization. No, we win because of Dak Prescott, at least in the short term this year, versus because of the others. In Cleveland, you're looking at it like we have everything we need. We got receivers. We have running backs. We have offensive line. We have offensive line coach. We have defense enough. Oh, what is Baker Mayfield? So let me do a little blind resume right here for you. Let me steal from you, who steals from Colin Cowherd, and let's have a little blind resume right here. Baker Mayfield, you are on the left. And look at that guy right there who has a higher completion percentage than you. Basically the same passer rating, but you got him. Touchdown to interception ratio, he's a little better than you. And the win percentage, oh, he's a winner. And you're not. You're under 500. I wonder who that guy can be and what's his fortunes, how his life turned out. Is that Mitch Trubisky? Hey, Baker, let me tell you one thing, big dog. You talk about franchise quarterback. You talk about 5th-year options. Where's Mitch Trubisky at right now?
He's hurt. He's actually in Los Angeles. I guess you're seeing the doctor for his shoulder. I read that on Twitter.
That dude is on the bench. And come on, man. I don't see how Baker can get out of this.
Can I use a Wileyism?
He wins it all.
Okay, use a Wileyism to push back. My dog told me last Friday, Marcellus Wiley came up here and said, a man is only as faithful
as his options.
The Bears They had options. They had a Super Bowl MVP quarterback and Nick Foles. Let me go back to that option.
Yeah.
You know what? They had options. The 49ers clearly think they have options. Maybe we can get Matt Ryan in free agency. Cowboys probably think they have options. We got the best backup in Andy Dalton. We might get a top five quarterback in the upcoming draft. But the Browns, if they're only as faithful as their options, I don't know that they have options. They're not going to get a top 10 pick this year, more than likely, not at 5-3. Case Keenum's your backup. I like Case Keenum. Yep. Kevin Stefanski, you should like Case Keenum. You coached him in Minnesota when he went 11-3. But if the Browns are only as faithful as their options, as a man is only as faithful as his options, although I disagree with that, Marcellus, you're faithful.
I'm faithful regardless.
He's a faithful man, damn Marcellus Wiley is.
What's today? What'd you say? I said, what'd you say?
But if you're only as faithful as your options, then I think the Browns, therefore, are kind of stuck with Baker to a degree. As long as Baker don't do nothing crazy, just don't give me a reason to leave, you Sal. Can we go there? Can we go there for a second? Like, you just don't give me a reason to leave.
You sound like my exes. Like, who you gonna find better than me? I'm like, you want a list? Like, let me find out. Okay, so you sound like Baker Mayfield will be in this situation. What else you gonna do?